And welcome back once again to How to Survive 2025, which is creeping ever closer. I'm Brian Keene.
I'm Dacia M. Arnold.
I'm Jim Cobb.
It's getting closer, Dacia.
It is.
I think when listeners are hearing this episode, it'll be the week of Thanksgiving or the week before Thanksgiving.
I think the week
And of
before.
course comes Christmas.
Mariah Carey is thawing out as we speak.
Mariah Carey's thawing out. And then it's 2025.
What?
But I'm safe in the knowledge that our listeners are prepared. They might be the only prepared people in the world, but they're prepared. And if you have a loved one in your life and you don't think they're prepared for next year, send them a link to the podcast.
Yep.
I mean, even after the new year, all of our content's going to be still relevant.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just the title, we limited it to a year, but the content itself is evergreen.
It is.
It's timeless.
It is.
And if you are a regular listener, we appreciate you. I know some folks listen while they're exercising, some listen in their car, some listen with their pets, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about our furry friends and preparedness in relation to them. Now, in case the listeners don't know, I have 5 cats, 4 of whom were once feral. Are now completely indoor. I also care for several feral colonies in central Pennsylvania, and I have 7 hermit crabs, which don't get talked about a lot.
Oh,
They don't.
No.
okay.
Dacia, what do you have?
I have 2 dogs.
2 dogs. Jim, what about you?
2 dogs and 5 cats.
Okay. So
Not all of the cats are mine, but they reside here. So,
So between us, we have some expertise with these animals. I also used to own a monitor lizard until he got far, far too big to be a pet anymore because I was young and dumb. I was in my early 20s, just got out of the Navy. Oh, yeah, I can keep this thing, not understanding how big they get and just how carnivorous they are. So, yeah, I finally had to. He went to a very good home. A reptile expert was more than happy to take him in, said he was very healthy. But yeah, my point is we all have experience, and I'm sure we all had either chameleons or goldfish as kids. So yeah, let's talk about that. If you're a regular listener, then we've covered a lot of scenarios at this point, but we haven't, zoomed in and really took a good look at what you do if you have to evacuate, with your animals. So let's start with, Jim, what if it's like Mount St. Helens erupts and you live at the foot of it and you just can't catch Fluffy the cat? Fluffy is not working with you. What are some big no-nos if you can't catch the animal and take it with you?
Well, let's back that up just a touch.
Let's not erupt a volcano.
Okay. Let's say there's a hurricane in Florida. As Rover is an outside dog, but you're going to a hotel and you can't take Rover with you to the hotel.
Do not, under any circumstances, leave your animal tethered, leashed, or otherwise trapped. That's a horrible thing to do. A friend of mine did some recovery work after Hurricane Katrina, and over and over and over, they found animals that had been left tied to posts or poles or whatever, and they drowned because they couldn't get away. They couldn't swim high enough to get above the floodwater. One of the things that I recommend you do is for cats and other critters similar to cats, where you need to grab them and put them into a tote or a container of some sort, some type of cage. Practice that. Get them used to that. Train them as best you can, so that if the time comes you need to beat feet really quick, you don't want to have to struggle with them. Get them used to the idea of If you shake the treat container, they're going to come a running, and you're going to throw treats into the crate. They're going to go in and get them, and you close the door.
Right.
On top of that, for dogs in particular, make sure that they're leash trained, make sure they're used to going on a leash, make sure they're used to wearing a harness on occasion. If need be, they might need to be muzzled. Get them used to wearing a muzzle. Depending on where you're going, that might be a requirement. The idea here is to get your pets accustomed to whatever you're going to need to do to them to transport them. Dogs tend to be easier than most other animals because they like to go riding in cars for the most part, that kind of thing. Cats are a little more problematic when it comes to that. I tend to, in these conversations, I tend to concentrate on cats and dogs simply because those are the animals I'm most familiar with. If you're dealing with fish, if you're dealing with lizards, if you're dealing with snakes, things like that, as a responsible pet owner, you should educate yourself on the best ways to transport those animals safely from one location to another. We're not going to be able to cover everything on Noah's Ark in this podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
Another thing that you're going to want to do to prep for evacuation is make sure you have a complete copy of your pet's vet records, medical records, immunization records, things like that. Now, there's a school of thought out there about medications and immunizations you should have on hand. Dacia, did you have something you wanted to chime in about on that?
So a lot of people are worried about, so in the long term, if you're leaving town, you don't know when you'll be back, of keeping vaccinations like for your pet stocked up like you would a human's, medication or whatever. I'd say rule of thumb, a lot of vaccinations require refrigeration and continuous refrigeration, and that's humans and pets. So I would just say don't worry about vaccinations so much. I would focus more on maintenance medications, medications that are going to keep Fluffy alive and safe and healthy. And how much medication, like the same amount we would keep for ourselves. So is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 3 months? It's whatever you're prepared for.
Right. Whatever. I think what I typically say is whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're comfortable with keeping on hand, whatever that length of time is, match it with your pets. And that goes for the medications, that goes for food, that goes for water, that goes for everything.
Now, like dewormer and stuff like that, you can get that over the counter. It's not refrigerated. They're just little treats. But they come in boxes if you don't want to keep like 15 months of boxes. Be practical.
Don't forget about first aid supplies for your pet. Vet wrap is a wonderful thing. And
what is that?
Okay, Dacia, I know you're familiar with this.
Is it Coban?
In your background. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Flexible, stretchy stuff that only sticks to itself.
Yeah.
The layman's term for it is vet wrap, because it's used by a lot of horse vets, things like that, for wrapping their legs. We use it all the time for bandages, for keeping things in place. And it's fairly cheap to buy a ton of it.
It is.
I really like it. It's one of my favorite first aid things, and I'm not really a first aid guy. For years it was, duct tape and some tissue paper and, wrap it around and you're good to go. But definitely, keep in mind first aid needs for your pets. If they're going to be walking for long periods of time and they're not accustomed to it, you got to pay attention to the pads on their feet, things like that. You want to address any wounds as quickly as you can, clean them out. You don't want to risk Fluffy getting an infection and just making everything worse. Going back to the immunization records, the vaccination records, you want to have those hard copies with you in the event you end up, heaven forbid, at some type of community shelter or a government shelter, even if it's just for the night, the few that will allow pets, what I've been told is they're going to ask if they're vaccinated, if they've got the rabies shot, all that kind of stuff. And you want to be able to show them, yes, Fluffy just got their rabies 3 months ago or whatever it is, so that there are no delays, there's no confusion, and you can proceed accordingly.
In tandem with that, probably a good idea before the disaster occurs to figure out where you can go with your pets. We've talked before, just a few episodes ago, Jim was talking about driving your evacuation route on a nice day so that you can get an idea for it. You should know ahead of time what hotels will allow pets, what hotels won't. Is the evacuation center going to allow your pets? Are there places to stop and let Rover take a leak along the way?
Now, interesting story. This happened locally a few weeks ago. There was a really bad fire in a condo building. They're actually not far from my house, maybe 10 minutes down the road. About 16 families were displaced as a result of the fire. Thankfully, nobody was killed. I think there was one firefighter that was slightly injured, but that was it. Everybody made it out. All the pets made it out. One of the families had called a local motel in the afternoon. The fire happened in the morning. Afternoon, they're still on site. They call this hotel, hey, can we bring our dog? Yes, no problem. They make the reservation. By the time they get done dealing with everything that they're dealing with, they show up at the hotel at like 11 o'clock or midnight that night, only to be told, oh, no, we won't allow your dog. Well, we called earlier and they said that we could have it. No, I don't know who you talked to, but they were wrong. We don't allow pet. So here it is midnight, and they're still looking for a place to stay. And the hotel charged them for the night for the hotel room anyway, because they had made the reservation, yada, yada. I say all of that to tell you this. If you can make arrangements to stay with a friend or a family member, that's preferable to a hotel if you have pets, assuming that friend or family member allows pets. You're not dealing with allergies or something like that. They're going to be a lot more accommodating, I feel, than relying on a desk clerk that may or may not know what the hotel's policy is on pets, or praying that they're going to make an exception for you because it's an emergency. Definitely call around, and you want, one of the catchphrases I like is prepping gives you options. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here is you want to increase the number of options you have available to you in a crisis. You want to identify multiple places that you can take your pets with you so that in a pinch, you know where you can go. And if point A doesn't work out for some reason, you've got point B, C, and D as additional options to explore.
Another option, and I this is like Hail Mary, you run out of options, your kids are cranky, you need to get somewhere for the night. A lot of shelters, a lot of animal shelters will temporarily house displaced pets, including your own. If you really don't have any other options, like the shelters aren't there to just pick up strays. Like they're the humane society. They're making sure that everyone is taken care of in a way that's fair. And one of those is taking care of your pets if they're displaced.
Now, if your pet is a snake or a lizard,
tarantula,
you might find this a little more difficult, everything we're talking about. But if you are going to take them with you, things to remember, of course, if you're driving a long distance, the heat lamp isn't going to work.
No.
Oh, wow.
There's two schools of thought. One is put them as close to the window as you can. Hopefully they get some sunlight. I'm not real crazy about that idea because depending on the type of emergency and the sunlight, that might be too much heat. I think it much, much better to cover the terrarium or the cage or whatever with a blanket. They're going to travel more securely and less anxiously if it's dark and they're blacked out anyway. But B, it'll help keep that body heat and interior heat trapped in there and keep them warm till you get to your destination. You know, if it's tarantulas, maybe just consider letting the tarantula loose. It can probably survive on its own.
Like a bird, you just let the birds go, your little parakeet?
No, put the shroud over them and put them in the car. Probably not next to the cat, but but these are things to think about ahead of time, not when the disaster strikes, but now.
Yep. Exactly.
Now,
go ahead.
In 2000, go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, Dacia.
I'm telling a story. It's not.
Go ahead, because I'm going to get it sidetracked.
I am too. So in 2010, Nashville flooded really, really bad. And the Nashville Mills Mall had like this, I want to say it was a Dick's Sporting Goods. It was an Outdoor World. It was an Outdoor World, had this huge tank, right? And the mall was like underwater. So like did all these like pond fish just like escape into life? Like they're like, oh, this is what it's like in the real world.
Fish swimming around the mall.
Oh my God, huge.
Oh, look, they got a Nordstrom here. Let's go ahead.
All right, now your turn to derail.
All right, because this is going to be a short episode. But at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about animals leashed to poles and trees and such. And during the most recent hurricane, there was viral footage of just this cute little dog tied to a tree. The police rescued him. I keep looking for follow-ups because I hope that dog did not go back to its owner. I hope, one of the cops was like, I'm taking you home to my family. You're our dog now. Because as far as I'm concerned, that owner lost every right to that dog. To leave it tied to a tree when storm surge is coming. But Jim, what are your thoughts? I'm the kind of guy that drives around with an extra leash in my truck because I'm always coming across strays and ferals. In an emergency situation where you're evacuating, you come across a strange dog, rescue it or leave it be and move on.
All other things being equal,
waste time and try to rescue the dog.
All other things being equal, I'm going to try to rescue the dog. I'm going to try to grab it, leash it. If you're a pet person, you should absolutely have an extra leash and maybe collar and things like that in your trunk, just in case. Just like with people, you're not going to be able to save every single one,
right?
But you can save one. I would probably try to chase the animal down, at least for a period of time. There might come a point where I have to cut my loss and move on, but I'm going to try to save the animal as best I can.
Right.
I don't know that, my 5 cats and 2 dogs in my van are going to appreciate the extra visitor, but, we'll deal with it.
Right.
And this applies even when we're not talking about, evacuation scenarios now.
Yeah.
You come across a stray animal on the side of a highway, if you're able to coax it over to you and get a leash on it and help prevent it from getting hit by a car, and then, take it to the Humane Society or take it to a local police department where they can scan it, see if it's chipped, see if we can get in touch with the owner, and reconnect owner to pet, everybody will appreciate that.
Right.
And
it's not for the dog.
There you go.
If you're not willing to make arrangements, make provisions for the pets that you have to ensure that they're safe, maybe we should find them a cool place to live.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you have too many cats, I'm not pointing fingers. If you have too many cats, or if you have to, like, if it's just not manageable, even like on a daily basis, forget a disaster, but you're drowning in pets, maybe try to rehome some of those.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, 5 is our limit. I've explained to my wife there will be no more.
Yeah.
You know, and every time a feral shows up outside, I explain to it as well. No, I'm sorry, this is a full house. I'll be on your way.
This seat's
tight. Look, every cat in the neighborhood knows we're supposed to go to Brian's house.
Oh, they do. Well, they did. We have no more in the neighborhood. I successfully bought and rehomed a total of 38 cats.
Nice. Jesus, and got them fixed.
Everyone, well, when I say rehomed, they went to homes. They were adopted out.
Yeah.
Except for 8 of them who went to the shelter when they had an opening. So I know all 8 of those were fixed, vaccinated, adopted out. The others, I'm sure they're new owners.
Took care of that.
Yeah. But you know, now the neighboring towns have me helping with their feral populations. So it's become like another full-time friggin' job for me. I had some friends in town last month, and we were walking around. The 3 of us were sightseeing. And they said, "Oh, look at that little black cat." And I said, "Yeah, that's one of mine. That's one of the ones I'm currently caring for." You know, just chilling in an alley, looking at me like, "Hey, I know you."
Nice.
I can imagine Brian driving home from the shop, just being followed by a herd of cats.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's
you know, we get them used to people, then we get them in the box trap, then we take them in, we get them fixed, and then you re-release because you know the shelters are full.
Yeah.
You know, so you re-release. It's not ideal, but at least they've gotten their rabies vaccination and they've been dewormed and they've been fixed, so they can't add to the problem. You know.
Oh, we said this was going to be a short episode, but I have a question, gentlemen.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we train our pets to help us prepare?
It's a great idea.
My dogs are the best feet warmers and people warmers and bed hogs. I don't ever have to worry about being cold again.
Yep.
You can shave if you have 5 or more cats. You can shave them and use the fur to barter with. If you don't have wool,
You can spin down cat fur. You can spin down any fur into a yarn.
I mean, if we're doing grid down nuclear war, you know, Mad Max prepper situation, a dog or a cat can hunt. I've had outdoor cats that every day brought me trophies,
you presents
daily. And I'm not talking little mice. I had a cat named Max who used to bring me squirrels. He'd bring me frogs. One time he brought me a black snake that was like 4 times his size, and the thing was still thrashing, and he'd just come dragging it across the yard. You know, and dogs, of course, human beings have used dogs as hunting animals for centuries. You know, they're very good in that aspect.
Dogs are also one of the best security tools. You know, even if it's just a little yap box, you know, it's going to alert you that, hey, something's going on. Now, the threat might be the mailman who has dared to cross your path for the 1,000th day in a row. But still, you know, and many, from what I've read, many burglars and that have said that, you know, a dog is one of the best deterrents. You know, if they see a dog, they're going to move on rather than monkey around with that, unless there's something they really, really want that you have that's worth taking that risk. Now, there's a school of thought out there about investing in security dogs, guard dogs, rather than just your average run-of-the-mill mutt. I don't recommend going that route for the average person, because not only does the animal need to be highly trained, the person needs to be highly trained. And that's the part that a lot of people forget. They think the dog is just going to be this Terminator, and you got to have somebody showing it what to do, where to go, and all of that, and do it in the right way. Otherwise, you're just going to confuse the animal, and it's going to be a dangerous situation for everybody involved. Personally, I'm a big fan of going to the Humane Society and picking up a new friend there. more than anywhere else. Understand that it's a lifetime commitment.
Yep.
You know, don't go into this half-cocked and think, well, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's not the right approach. For me, my animals are full-fledged family members. They're not employees. They're not food waiting to be taken.
Oh my God, it never crossed my mind.
Oh yeah, that comes up a lot in some of the prepper subculture, is this idea that, you know, if the dog gets too old, then it's just going to be dinner, you know. My animals have full run of the house. They're treated like family members, you know. That's just how I roll, you know, and I always have. I've had animals my entire life. I love them to death, and I'd do anything for them. Don't go into pet ownership lightly. And it's not just the time commitment. It's a substantial financial commitment.
Oh yeah.
To take care of their vet bills. And you know, we had a dog about 4 or 5 years ago now. We almost lost her. She had a really bad lung infection. I don't know exactly what it was. She spent a few days in a vet ICU, in an oxygen tank or oxygen box, whatever you want to call it. When all was said and done, I could have bought a pretty nice used vehicle for what we spent in vet bills. And I don't regret it for a minute. I thank the Lord that I had enough readers over the years who bought enough of my bullshit to be able to finance me paying that vet bill.
Wow.
You know, and I'd do it again. I'd do it in a heartbeat if I had to. You know.
Do we have special guests for our YouTube viewers today?
I don't know if listeners can hear it or not.
There's one. Oh, there's one.
Yeah, my special guests are letting me know that I have not yet fed them dinner. And they would like me to wrap this up and go feed them.
Yeah, mine are both downstairs, and the cats are sequestered right now.
If you guys don't mind, I can grab the war
There's
beagle.
Dallas right there for those for our listeners on YouTube. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, he's the vanguard. He's letting me know. Hey, they set me up to inform you that we would like to.
He's the delegate.
He is.
All right.
Dacia went to get her furry friend.
Yes. Yep. This is our newest child. He was like a quarter of this size 2 months ago.
Now,
that's adorable.
For those of you listening to us on Spotify or Apple or Player FM or elsewhere, what we're looking at is just the cutest dog ever. Ever.
He's so sweet. His name is Miles Davis.
And look at him looking at Dacia with just adoration in his eyes. Oh my God.
Yep.
All right.
So on that note, send us all your puppy, kitty cat, all your not fluffy and fluffy friends. Send us on socials. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on Facebook. Are we anywhere else?
YouTube? Yeah, I mean, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We are cool. We are the breeze.
Your pictures.
Yeah. And, you know, if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple or, you know, anything like that, a 5-star review goes a long way to helping out the show. So if you haven't done that yet, please consider doing it.
Absolutely. And we'd love to hear feedback. You know, what do you like? What are you hoping we talk about? Things like that. You know, let us know you're there.
We should point out this is a limited series. We're not going to be doing this forever. So if there's a topic that you really want us to hit on before we wrap the final episode, reach out and let us know. Regardless, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
All right. We will see you next week, folks.